live. Hey, Allison Verhalen here, coming at you live for today's. I'm gonna call this Marketing Monday. I know I don't always do this on Mondays, but I just like the alliteration of Marketing Monday. By the way, I have a newsletter on LinkedIn called Marketing Monday. So if you are not connected with me on LinkedIn, look me up, Allison Verhalen. I'm easy to find. And then you can subscribe to my newsletter. So I wanted to talk to you today about how content marketing is like compound interest. I was talking to someone last week. I can't even remember exactly what we were talking about, but somehow this idea hit my brain of, blogging is a lot like compound interest. And since I work with a lot of financial planners, I was like, this is perfect. So I'm going to make a blog post about it and a YouTube video, and here we go. So this is not live on my blog yet. It will go live on my blog tomorrow if you want to check that out over at avwritingservices.com. In the meantime, I'm just going to tell you why I think content marketing is so much like compound interest. I see this a lot with people, especially business owners who are doing their own content marketing, where they get started, maybe they write a few blog posts and they don't see immediate results. And they get discouraged and they stop blogging, or they get busy, right? I mean, that happens too. We all have times where we get busy and things fall by the wayside. Your blogging, your marketing should never fall by the wayside. Yes, you have clients to serve. Yes, that is important, but it is just as important that you continue to work on getting new clients. And if you put the effort in and you keep putting the effort in to blogging, it will help you grow your business, and then you can hire more people and serve more clients and move onward and upward, right? Because the last thing we want is for those existing clients to leave, whether, for their own reasons, or if you have a program that lasts a certain amount of time, maybe they stay in the program for that amount of time and then they leave. Now you got to fill that funnel again, right? That's what blogging does. It helps you fill that funnel, but it can't be just a one and done thing. And I know how frustrating it is to spend all this time and effort creating a great piece of content. You think it's genius. You think everyone wants to read it and they're going to love it and they're going to share it with all their friends. And you finally put it up on your website, only to hear crickets, right? It seems like no one's reading it and no one's sharing it. It's not getting anywhere. It's not getting you any leads. That is normal for the first at least for a few months. I'd say 3 to 6 months before you really get Google's attention, especially if you're a brand new website, because Google wants to figure out what you're all about. And it takes Google a good 2 to 3 months just to scan your content, right? So yes, Google uses AI. It uses robots to scan all the content out on the internet, categorize it, index it, match it up with certain searches, figure out whether it's good content or whether it should be, put on not the first page of Google, right? So yes, it uses technology to do that. It's not real people reading all our content, but the capabilities are still limited. It cannot read all of the content on the internet all at once. It still takes time to do that. So give Google time to do that, especially since we have literally millions of new blog posts being published every single day. I think it's something like 4 million new blog posts that are published every day, right? So keep that in mind as far as why it takes a while. Even if you do everything right and you've got your keywords in all the right places and it's a great post, it can still take a while for Google to scan it and categorize it to crawl all your content. So it's going to take a while. This is part of the beauty of evergreen content on your blog post, right? The time posts are great. People do need those. They want to see that content. But the evergreen post, that's where you tend to see the most SEO. The most traffic going to that post is 2 to 3 months after you publish, because that's when it hits. That's when Google finally indexes it and crawls it and gets an idea of what it is and can match it with those searches. Google also just relies on content. The more content you have on your website, the more Google can get an idea of what your website is all about. And if you are consistently publishing new content, it's the same idea of making deposits into your savings account, right? So if you want that compound interest to work for you, yes, having that initial deposit in your savings account is one thing, but if you can keep adding to that principal amount, it's that compound interest is going to work even harder for you, right? It's going to grow exponentially. Same thing with blogging. You cannot just put up a few blog posts and sit back and watch the magic happen, right? You have to keep adding to your principle. There are so many benefits to this. And I mean, the biggest one really is Google, right? Google loves all that content. Google looks at all that content to get an idea of who you are and what you're all about. So the more content you have on your website, the more keywords you're targeting that are relevant to your audience, the better chance Google is going to say of saying, okay, I know what this website is all about. We can match it with these searches. B, they've got a ton of content. It's super useful. It's super relevant to these people over here who are looking for this stuff. Now we can match them with these searches and rank them highly. Google also looks at other aspects of your content to make sure it's high quality, make sure you're trustworthy, make sure you really are an authority in your industry. That's a whole other, probably a few other blog posts and videos that I've used to cover that. But another part of that is backlinks, right? A good one is that Google looks at who's referencing you, who's using you as a reference and going, hey, check out this content over here. It's good content. It's valuable. You want to see what this person has to say. When other people do that, that organically drives content to your website, which is great. It also lets Google know that other people see you as an authority in your industry. That can also improve your rankings. So those are backlinks, right? And again, you got to have good content in order for people to link back to your website, because they're not going to do it just because you asked nicely. They're going to do it because you're providing value to their audience. So provide value on your blog, and the best way to do that is by creating great content. The other thing I love about having a ton of content on your website is that you can reuse old content. So as much as I'd like to say prioritize blogging, make sure you have blog posts going up every week, preferably. If you can only do one or two a month, okay, but preferably do it every week, right? So there's that. And then there's the fact that when you have a good pile of blog posts on your website, you can reuse old blog posts. So if you do get busy, the holidays are coming up, right? So for a lot of us, not only do the holidays get busy, but in terms of family and maybe in terms of your business, depending on the business that you're in, but it can be a great time to take an old blog post, unpublish it. Don't just copy and paste it onto your website. That's duplicate content. You got two things on your website that say the exact same thing. That's just going to confuse Google. And now you're competing with yourself for those keywords and that content. So don't do that. Google does not like duplicate content. It's just going to make things harder. But you can unpublish that post, republish it with the new publication date. Google is going to treat it just like brand new content. So it's still going to help your SEO. The best way to do that is to take a blog post that is already getting traffic. And again, this should be something that's at least a year old, right? So if it's still getting traffic and it's a year old, that shows that there's still some value in it. So obviously it has to be an evergreen topic. It can't be something that people are searching for once in a limited time and then they're moving on to something else, right? This has to be something that is always interesting to your target audience, so it's still relevant. So if it's still getting traffic and then you republish it, that can be a way to reinvigorate that content and get more eyes on it. So don't be afraid to reuse that old content. That's one of the best ways to really take advantage of, when you have a pile of blog posts, and again, you put all that work into creating all that content, right? Yes, you want to promote the heck out of it when it's first published, but by republishing it and again, promoting the heck out of it, now you're driving more traffic to that content. You're really getting the most out of it. So don't be afraid to reuse old content. And then we have our Google core updates, right? So you can think of this as like a market setback, right? So even if you're doing everything right with your savings and investing, sometimes the market goes a little wonky and your savings takes a hit and there's really nothing you can do about that, right? But if you stay the course, i.e., if you leave your savings and investment alone and you don't panic and take everything out, right? You leave it alone, hold the course, the market should self-correct, and then you're fine. Then you're back to smooth sailing, right? Same goes for your Google core updates. It can be a lot like a market setback, even if you're doing everything right, or you think you're doing everything right with creating your content. Sometimes Google makes a core update, and sometimes it works as intended, and sometimes things get a little wonky and your traffic goes up and down. But again, as you stay the course and make sure that you're still creating great content. It's still valuable to your audience. It's high quality content. You're publishing on a regular basis. That's what Google wants at the end of the day. It wants someone who is committed to their business, committed to creating great content on their website on a regular basis, and they are answering the questions that people are asking. That's really all Google wants. And it's just trying to come up with ways to get better and better at doing that. So if you can do all that, don't freak out when there's a core update and you see the traffic to your website go a little wonky, because this happens to all of us, where we will be seeing, especially in the middle of a core update, traffic goes all over the place. SEO people are just used to it at this point because we see it all the time. It's like, okay, Google says there's another core update coming, brace yourselves. And sure enough, our traffic will go up and down and all over the place. And it is scary, but if you hold the course and just keep doing what you're doing, the market will self-correct, and you can get back to getting that compound interest and building on it and building on it and building on it. So that is what I have for you today. That is everything about how I think a blogging strategy can be a lot like compound interest, as well as some tips for you as to how you can actually go about making the most of that compound interest. So that's it. If you have any other questions, you know where to find me. I am over at AV, as in my initials, AV Writing Services. If you have any questions, you can email me directly at info@avwritingservices.com. Otherwise, have a great week and happy blogging, everyone.